出せだな。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I am your underground golfer lesbian, Soup.
And I'm your badminton-playing salaryman, Renu.
This week, AT stands for Absolute Territory because we will be wrapping up, finally, the spring 2022 season. But before we get into that, what have you been up to, Renu? It has been quite some time since we have, not since we've spoken to each other, but since we have recorded an episode, certainly.
Yes, that was all my fault, guys. Sorry about that. You can place all of the blame on me. I disappeared to the moon for like over a month.
Yeah, I thought we would be able to get at least some stuff like recorded and queued up, but it just kind of wasn't in the cards, mostly because of the anime schedule. That was really what kind of did it. Most things that we wanted to do were ending like on the day that you were leaving, so we couldn't really watch them.
Yeah, a lot of it was, either ending when I was leaving or essentially like a little bit after. So it was just unfortunate timing. But we're here now. Long awaited.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, to long story short, I was out of the country. Partly for vacation reasons, but also mostly for family reasons. Taking care of a bunch of family stuff, but also my brother got married, so we went over
congratulations.
to...
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Renu's I don't know if it's like an older brother or a younger brother.
Yeah, he's my older brother.
Okay, all right. So Renu Aniki.
Aniki. Yeah. My Aniki got married, so we got to meet his wife's family and everything. It was a big old celebration, and then we got to meet up with all of my family and extended family too. It was just this big old shebang.
Nice.
And yeah, since it was overseas, that's why I wasn't really able to record or do anything really other than just disappear.
Yeah, Renu just kind of disappeared for a month, and we're like, I hope she's okay.
Yeah, no, it was a ton of fun. I got to travel to Singapore and to Vietnam.
Nice.
So I got to eat tons of tropical foods.
I bet the
such.
food was so good.
It was so good. And oh my gosh, you can get all of these like dragon fruit and like mango and jackfruit, all this kind of stuff. So it was like so dirt cheap. You could get like a whole bag full and it would be like maybe like a couple bucks if that.
Whoa,
so I got to
delightful.
eat tons of that kind of stuff. And my family was very, very warm and welcoming. They took us everywhere to all the sites and all that kind of stuff. We went to the mountains, we went to the beach, we went to the north, we went to the south. It was crazy.
Wild.
Yeah. So that was what I was up to. I was very, very tired when I came back, and then I had 3 weeks of conventions, and then that's why we're only just now getting to record. What have you been up to?
I have, man, God, it's been so long since we like talked about anything that I like that don't even all of the stuff that like I would probably had in the bucket has like sort of just fallen out of my brain. Like I have I think been up to stuff. I decided or rather I should say my Friday D&D group has decided to start playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which is really exciting. So we're all learning that system together. And there are it's been a little slow going, just because none of us are really that familiar with the system. But it has been an interesting experience. I've actually I have things that I like about the system much better, and then things that I think are about the same, and then some stuff that I think is if not worse, more annoying. Because the system is more granular. But we've been enjoying it. I mean, we're having a good time. So can't really say much about that, to be honest. Because we only just started, so we have been I've been playing for a couple weeks now. I'm actually really excited because soon, once we kind of have a better grasp of the system, obviously everything's going to go a little bit faster. We can kind of really get back into the flow of what a game is like. I have a lot of fun stuff planned that obviously I can't throw at level 1 characters, but you wait a little bit, and then you bada bing bada boom, you can send them on their way.
I mean, you could throw it at them. You just have to make sure they somehow survive.
Right, exactly. And that's no fun. You want to survive your encounters. So, aside from that, we got a new kitty.
Yeah.
She's actually an old kitty. So Gwen's mom is moving out of the state. And so she was like, I don't really want to move. I don't really want to move my 12-year-old cat across the country. I don't think she'd be very happy with that. So we did the shorter thing and took her down here to where we live. So we've been getting her acquainted with the house. She's been here for a little bit more than a week now. Unfortunately, she and Philip do not get along very well. Philip is very friendly, and Cookie is not. She's a little old lady tuxedo. So she has lived with dogs before, but she hasn't really lived with any cats, as far as I know. So she feels very threatened by this large boy that wanders in sometimes. So we usually keep the door closed. They don't get along super well. Like, Philip is pretty friendly, but I think he's becoming unfriendlier because she's being really unfriendly to him. He's just really curious and interested, but she keeps just hissing and growling at him, and he's like, I'm afraid.
I don't know how to react to this.
Yeah, which is sad. I think obviously this was always going to be a concern, and we're going to keep trying to introduce them to each other. But Philip's like a young boy, he wants to play all the time, and Cookie's an old lady. She doesn't really she doesn't really care for when she's swishing her tail and Philip's like, ooh, tail.
Oh,
right?
No.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Cats are so interested by other cats' tails.
We have that kind of situation too when our kittens go after our older cats who are just moving their tails, and then they promptly get growled at or swatted at by the older
poor
cat.
babies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far Cookie has only been able to stay in our room. We usually keep the door closed. We try to introduce them to each other every couple of it used to be every couple of days. Now we're kind of giving it a shot every day. We'll adjust that as necessary until she's kind of more used to him. I feel bad for Philip because he just wants to play. He just he's a baby.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
And he's never experienced such harshness in his life. Nobody yells at him except for when we yell at him.
Oh, well, they will eventually work it out. I am positive that they will. It doesn't sound like either of them is neither of them is intentionally being super aggressive and
No.
seeking out the other. They just kind of like are having trouble getting used to the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the problem is that Philip is very friendly, so he like kind of trots after and like, gets close to people, and he really like she really just does not like that. And she obviously is adjusting to living in a new place. I think she's just kind of getting her appetite back up.
Oh.
Yeah, not that she ever really ate like terribly much to begin with, but she's also very sedentary. Like she doesn't really move a lot. But every time she's tried to explore the house, Philip has like come running in, like, hey, you want to play? And she doesn't like that. No,
I'm here to show you around.
Yeah, which is really sad. Because obviously we'd like her to explore the rest of the house. We'd like them to get along, but I suspect it will probably take a little while. Yeah, so unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
All right, so in the time that Renu has been gone, I took up playing Final Fantasy 14, and I have since played through the. I have since caught up to the main story quest of Final Fantasy 14. It took pretty much the length of time that Renu was gone. Of just playing like a couple hours a day. And you know what? It was really good. I will say that I do think that it is not necessarily for everyone, especially if it's like really, really hard to get through the base game, which is where a lot of people kind of get caught up because of Realm Reborn. It's really, really old, and the story is very like kind of whatever, right? But the thing is that it's like it has given me an appreciation for like ultra long form content, right? Just like stuff where there's just so much of it that it is able to build on itself in a good way. I also think that I think that the writing of Final Fantasy 14 is just like so top notch good. I think it is some of the best game writing in like the last like 5 years or so, I guess. Just like what it has like built up into and how they brought that stuff to a conclusion, the way that they hammer home themes, like all of that stuff was so good. And it has been quite some time since I've just like enjoyed myself in a game so deeply. Yeah. Now, obviously, like, if it's not that interesting to you, you don't have to play it. I think it is. I'm very happy for having played it, and I think the game itself is very aware of what it is, and that makes it better at telling its own story, which I think is really cool. Yeah, and there's just really nothing like it, but it has really given me it's the gift that keeps on giving, because obviously like I enjoy also the gameplay of it. There's a reason that I keep playing it even after I've caught up to the main story, but there's like a lot of other side content, right?
Yeah,
there's like the main story quest, but there's also like in the post patches and stuff, there's trials and dungeons and stuff, and raids, and they all have their associated storylines, and it's all good. Well, some of it's better than other stuff, to be fair. But like yeah, I mean that's basically what has. I was like, man, it feels like there's like just a void in my last like, 2 months, and it's because I dumped all of my life into Final Fantasy 14. It's like that's weird. It feels like there's something I forgot about. It was Final Fantasy 14. Having played through the whole thing, that was what I forgot to mention.
That would consume that amount of time or more. I mean, honestly.
Yeah. So that was great. That was great to occupy my time. I didn't end up streaming more of it just because it was something that I kind of wanted to like turn off and play, right? Like I was playing with some of my friends in the same like voice channel, so like it's not like I was completely off. But it was very nice to just have something that I could play for myself, which is obviously always really great. But yeah, so the thing is, I have played a lot of Final Fantasy 14. That is primarily what I've been up to. But there is one more thing that I want to talk about before we get into spring 2022 anime, and this is about anime. But
Okay.
So recently, Renu, you and I got together with some of our friends and watched the Made in Abyss movie.
Oh no! Oh no!
And like, so like, what the fuck?
Okay. So, like, anyone... Okay, first of all, big spoilers. But also, anyone who's watched Season 1 of Made in Abyss can get a really good impression of the anime, but also kind of see the direction that it's going, especially towards the end of the season. And if you are interested in watching the movies, I would say, like, huge content warnings for that kind of that level of stuff.
Huge content warnings for child abuse, amputation, gore, body horror, human experimentation, just like the whole gamut of awful things.
Yeah. And the movies take that and make it even darker. It exacerbates it by quite a bit. And I think that that's kind of like the fans of Made in Abyss, as in the people who have kept up with the manga and are keeping up with the anime and the movies, are down for that kind of thing. But if you're kind of just like a casual fan, and the horror in the first season really skeeved you out, I can't safely recommend the movies.
No. Okay, so here's the thing, right? Is that I think that the first season of the anime has moments where you see the very grim, harsh realities of the abyss.
Yes.
And I think it works pretty well in the first season.
It's brilliant, yeah.
Right? It works very well. It feels like it's meaningful and impactful, and that it's actually like it kind of is playing into this like coming of age story. The problem with this arc is that there is almost a little bit too much like relish in the gruesome aspects of it. Like, the thing is that this feels a lot less like the kind of coming of age adventure story that season 1 was, and it feels more like watching a fucked up animated Saw movie. Like, the thing is, like, you can this is not to say anything bad about Saw or the people that watch it, because I think media like that has its place, and I think it is completely fine to enjoy that kind of stuff. Personally, I don't like it, right? But like, you know, my tastes are not going to be everyone's tastes. But like the sort of stuff that happens in Made in Abyss is like just kind of especially heinous in like a really stomach churning way. Like very, 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 very big content warnings. I would just skip like 5 minutes ahead if you don't want to listen to this. I'll give you like 5 seconds to do so, starting now. So like the problem is with Made in Abyss is that like all of the terrible stuff is happening to children. And it's just kind of especially stomach turning because and it's something that feels a little bit like on purpose, because it has to do, right? It has to do with the kind of other themes in the piece. But like, you know, all of the stuff that happens in the first season with Nanachi and Midi, all of that gets like really cranked the fuck up in this movie. And like, you watch like not one but at least 2 different like amputation sequences. Like, there's a weird piss sequence. I cannot like me as a person, I really just can't stomach watching that kind of stuff. I think for a lot of people, like especially if, you know, like stuff like gore or guro doesn't really bother you, like that's fine, whatever. But like I can't. It turns my stomach physically in a way that like makes me so deeply uncomfortable that I like don't want, right? Like I think it is okay to be made to feel uncomfortable in certain ways. I'm not sure about the value of this necessarily. It feels almost like the author is like enjoying the suffering of these children like a little bit too much, a little bit more than I would have liked, right? And like obviously, you know, at the end of the day, like this is like a fictional piece, right? It's not actually hurting anybody. It's not even like it's like child, you know, like lolly stuff, right? Even though there is kind of like a weird hint of that. There's like a weird aspect of that where it's just like, oh yeah, you see the you know, his BP gets big when we touch him and stuff. And I'm like, I didn't need that.
It's straying the line. I kind of want to say that it is in that territory, but like it doesn't go like so deep into that territory. That's all it is about.
Right. I think it's straddling that line, and obviously I feel like you can infer some sensibilities about the author, but at the same time, like the piece itself is also, it kind of speaks for itself in that like what you see is what you get. Like as far as like the content goes, like it doesn't really imply like sexual abuse really, but there is a lot of just like, you know, other jacked up shit in there, right? And it's like, you know, not to but like it was not for me, and it was not comfortable to watch. And I think if you have watched the first season and you kind of know the content, just know that you're gonna get more of that. It has really turned me off of watching more, which is really funny because it seems like what really surprises me about Made in Abyss is how much mainstream appeal it seems to have. Like a lot of people seem to really like it. And like that's fine and interesting, and that's like fine and cool or whatever, right? I'm just like, it's just like weird because like it feels like I'm watching I'm watching like a train wreck with a bunch of red flags planted in it, and like nobody can see them. And like, to be fair, in season 1 when we watched it, we were like, oh, there's some stuff, but like it was like the plausible deniability of season 1 was like, oh yeah, you know, it's like, it's kind of whatever, right? But like now I'm just like, oh no, it's like worse in retrospect actually.
Yeah. I would say I think I don't know whether the mainstream appeal is due to the first season of the anime, or if it's just because people like this type of story. I can't imagine that would be the case.
So okay, this is what I will say is I do think that like the story itself is not without merit. I think that especially all of the supporting characters and the antagonists especially are written in such a deeply disgusting but compelling way. You know, you get this in season 1 with Ozen. I think there's a sequence where she like, you know, breaks like one of the children's limbs or something so that they won't continue further on, but you kind of understand where that's coming from. But then she's like, oh, but let me tell you about fucking Bondrude. That guy's a nutcase. And then you get down there and you're like, oh yes, this is the worst. And then like he just continues to live after it. Like he dies a bunch of times, and then he's just like, anyway, it's all cool. I'm still here. And you guys can continue down, and I have no problem with that. And we're like, we have major problems with you still being alive.
Yeah, we don't. First of all, we don't need your blessing to continue, and second of all, they had two quote unquote final conflicts with him. At first, they had this plan and it worked out, and then it turns out, oh my gosh, they found out that it's not going to work. And then the final confrontation where, again, it didn't work.
Yeah.
And they just have to, they literally, I mean, not literally, but like, Nanachi says the equivalent of, we've come to an understanding, we just...
Right, it's like, have you, though? I'm not sure that is the case.
This man has committed worse than war crimes, I would say, against many, many children, and you're saying you've come to an understanding.
This is what frustrates me about Made in Abyss, because I think that the writing itself is good. I think it's actually pretty stellar in many regards. And I think that the problem for me is that the Bondred, the main antagonist of this season, of this arc, is a really compellingly evil character, except for the fact that like all of this weird like turning children into juice boxes thing like exists. Like, okay, don't get me wrong, I think that the revelation of what that is and why it is makes sense within the universe of the world. I'm not saying it's not cohesive, right? I personally don't think we needed to have to witness it from the perspective of the child being turned into a juice box, right? Like, we know it's bad, and everything, all the sequences that happen after tell us it's bad and horrifying without us having to actively watch the child be, like, surgically ripped apart. I just, like, no. No, I don't want to watch it. I do not like it, Sam, I am.
Yeah, so I guess like 3 points. One is that the movie actually did some work to try and make this content more digestible. Yeah, so the manga, or the webtoon, goes far more in depth with these scenes, these especially the disgusting, explicit scenes, right? 2 is, like, for sure this is supposed to be, like, a mark, like a mark in the story where, they're basically crossing the threshold between where you can stay a human and when for sure you will, if you'll become a monster or whatever the abyss turns you into, right? You will no longer be human. And so that's what Bondred is supposed to represent. He's supposed to represent that. Kind of like the border, but also the being that goes back and forth between them, and you see the consequences of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it kind of it, like, thematically everything in the show makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like,
of course, yeah.
The fact that you know, obviously, like, you know, as a coming of age story, right? Once you cross the threshold into you know, not being innocent anymore and kind of being aware of the horrors of the world, right? You can never return to being a child, right? So it's kind of like, you know, once you pass this threshold, you lose the ability to be a child anymore, right? You're growing up. But it's just caked in all this, like, weirdo stuff.
Yeah, and that's basically my third point, is that if it's already this bad, right? We had an escalation, obviously, from season 1 to this, right? To this movie. And if after this point it's only going to get worse, do you want to continue watching? And of course, a lot of people like you and me we're already skeeved by season 1, and we were... and everything was just worse. Everything became worse.
The last half hour of that movie was just screaming. It was just 5 people screaming. We were like, no. There's a lot of weird, there's a lot of weird penetration stuff also, right?
Oh, don't. No.
Lots of belly buttons being probed in a way that is not
don't just launch that into the audio ether.
I'm sorry, the people deserve to know.
Well, I don't want to dwell on it too long, but essentially, I this movie did leave us rather speechless at the end. It apparently the arc wraps up in basically the same way as it does in the original work.
Okay.
Which is, it does leave off on that happy-go-lucky, let's continue on our adventure shtick. And yeah, Rico's wearing the heart of, well, it's a representation of the heart of the child that became a juice box, and so
yeah, it was just a lot. It was so much.
Yeah.
I will say, just in general, that the movie is animated beautifully.
Oh yeah.
It's gorgeous. The music is so good. It's like
continues to be stellar.
Yeah, some of the best like audio composition work out there in terms of anime.
Yeah.
The production value of this, of this series is really, really good. Like even season 1 of the anime, the televised anime, the production value was like really stellar. The soundtrack by Kevin Penkin specifically really stands out as being something that a lot of people remember.
Yep.
But the thing that, I mean, it's just kind of like an elephant in the room where everybody's like delicately dancing around the fact that like the author probably enjoys depicting these scenes a little bit too much, right? Like, and then like the thing is, like, it would be weird if that stuff never came up again. Like if that was just the end of it and everything else past this was just a happy-go-lucky adventure with like an emotional conclusion or whatever. That would be bizarre, but it would also not be great if it continued, right? And like, okay, this is like where your personal mileage will vary. Everybody has a different personal tolerance for this. Personally speaking, it is difficult for me to continue watching this. One, because of the actual content that I'm bearing witness to, which turns my stomach in a very visceral way. But the other is just knowing, like, the knowledge. Right, it's like the forbidden knowledge that somebody is enjoying what they're doing a little bit too much, right? It's like if an executioner just took a lot of relish in their job, you'd be like, I get it. I appreciate what you're doing. I like that you, I'm glad that you're taking, enjoyment and satisfaction from your craft, but also, right?
Yeah. You cannot get around the fact that whatever piece of media you're consuming, you're going to question the author's intent. You want to know what kind of story they're telling, and you want to, connect all of the themes together, because eventually their intent like is just the thorough line, right?
Right.
And so that's where I'm at that's where I'm at crossroads with this series, because on the one hand, I love the world building. Of course I want to see the children succeed in their adventure. I want to see Riko discover the mystery behind what happened to her mom. The mystery behind Reg's origins and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. And then the other half of it is, of course, like, do I want to suffer just to get there? And I question what the author's intent is. Did he make this work to cause the children suffering, or did he, or is it still going to be? It seems like it's just kind of like, because of the way that this arc ended, the way that it just kind of left turns into a happy ending, it kind of almost feels forced. Right. It doesn't even almost feel forced. It feels very forced.
Yes.
That it's still going to be a happy, not even a happy, but just an adventure story in general, right? Is it going to be 90%, 99% a girl fest, but involving lots of children? And then the 1%, we gotta remember we're still an adventure story. Keep going. That's gonna be the like little box that we put all of this terrible stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am confused. Because season 1 for sure feels like, this is an adventure story, and then now that we've watched the movie, it's like, is it an adventure story anymore, or is it just the thin facade? I don't know.
I feel like the answer is like, it is both, right? It contains multitudes. I think that the way that the plot is written, the way that the characters are written, I think there's a lot of care put into the world and the characters and
Yeah.
their motivations and
Yeah.
how they got so warped. I think there's some interesting discussions to be had about the sort of thematic implications of this mystery that exists
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
people are attempting to solve, and it drives some people to treat other human beings like objects, and how
Uh-huh.
that the narrative obviously frames that as a bad thing, right? I think in
Yeah.
general the actual narrative remains relatively intact, but you can kind of just like see you just see a lot of the author, for better and for worse, and like like I said, for me personally, that is a value proposition that like just doesn't work out for me. But I think for a lot of people, it will work, or they'll be able to look past it, or they don't really care that much. Um, Personally, I think that the content that you see on screen is just about the most heinous animated content, really, like short of like like child stuff in anime,
Uh-huh.
which you know exists out there, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
yeah, this feels like maybe not as bad as that, or maybe as bad in a different way. I don't know. It just feels, like it feels a little bit too exploitative in that it
Yeah.
focuses so much on it, makes it such a big aspect. Personally, I just don't need to see that kind of suffering in children for me to feel like I should root for them. I don't know, like it's weird, right? It's like I see what you're doing, but why? And like the fact that all the kids look like that, and like they're have to experience all these things, like it just, I know it's a work of fiction. And that's really where I'll leave it at. I'll leave it as a work of fiction that I just don't really personally wish to engage with.
Yeah, and this is, and of course all of this discussion is like entirely our bias, and like you said, there's tons of people who still enjoy the series. um yeah, just like content warnings in case you decide that you want to watch the movies and continue on with the series after season 1 of the anime.
Yeah, I mean, simply put, I just don't really want to watch children be amputated, and I hope that's not a controversial take.
How dare you?
I really hope that's not a controversial take, Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that's probably a good summary of what we've been up to.
Shall we talk about anime? Other anime?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So we're wrapping up the spring 2022 season.
Right. It has been quite some
Um,
time since
yeah.
this season has wrapped up. And it was interesting. There was a lot of stuff that we were interested in checking out. The
Yeah.
actual stuff that I watched was pretty sparse, all things considered. You watched a considerable amount more, actually. You like doubled my list.
Let's go.
But yeah, let's get into it, huh? I'm gonna move this one up. I know it's lower down on the list, but let's talk about Love After World Domination first, because I think this will be pretty straightforward. So Love After World Domination is about a Sentai hero. If for those of you that aren't familiar, a Sentai is what is translated as a task force. But basically it's Power Rangers, right? Power Rangers comes from Super Sentai in Japan. And the premise is obviously like, it's a monster of the week thing where like the monsters show up and they try to like take over the world, and the heroes transform and they beat up the monsters, and you know what a Power Ranger is, right? And so Love After World Domination, the premise is that it is this world that has like an evil organization that wants to take over the world Gekko, and and Gelato 5, which is the conceit that they've come up with for the Rangers. Every Sentai has like a gimmick that they go for, right? Like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or like Power Rangers Dinos, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the plot is basically that the main guy of the Sentai squad, Gelato Red, which I don't know if I don't remember what the red is supposed to stand for. They're all named after like ice creams, sort of, gelatos, right? And I don't remember what the red is supposed to be. It's red flavored, but Red falls in love with one of the commanders of the enemy army, the Shirigami princess, and they have to they get together, and then they try to hide their relationship from their coworkers, and that's the show. And it is pretty cute. It is pretty good.
It is.
It is not like, it's not the most impressively animated thing, but it's like a rom-com, and I think that the setup of it is cute, and the characters are endearing. Like, they're not the most complicated characters in the world, but they are endearing. And I just had a good time with this overall, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
it's nice to turn my brain off and just kind of watch this.
Yes.
Like,
it's definitely just turn your brain off content.
Yeah. If you're interested, it is very cute. The one thing I will say about this anime that really stood out to me is, how most anime has this problem where all of the adults look like children. They all look like teenagers, and you're like, this guy's 35. And you're like, there's no way that guy's 35. He looks 17, right? This is the exact opposite problem, where the characters like don't look like they're in high school. Like, they look like they're college students, right? Like, they're not that much older, but they're noticeably, they don't feel like high school students. But then it's revealed that they're high school students, and you're like, in what universe?
What? Yeah, exactly. Especially
this guy has a six-pack.
The main female lead too is like, she's out there in dominatrix like evil bad guy wear that's like very revealing, skin tight stuff, and then you find out she's just a high school girl.
It's just a really weird just a weird reveal. I think I kind of know why, because like in the later episodes, the tension is kind of between what she wants as a person and what her dad wants as like a minion of the evil army. He's like, I raised you from a baby and you became a commander. I want you to become a monster commander so that you can bring our family pride, right? And I think that plot definitely doesn't work as well if they're in college, which obviously makes sense. But in general, I'm just like, they just don't look or act like they're in high school. Which is very funny to say, I think.
Yeah, I think if that's the case, then they should have aged them down a bit in their appearance.
I think so too. I mean, I guess it's whatever. They just look like what an anime has geared you to think an adult is supposed to look like. That's just where I'm at with that.
Yeah, but I guess whatever. It's a cute show, and easy to watch if you like this kind of trope of the good guy and the bad lady falling in love.
Yes, it's very endearing. I think it's done pretty well. It never feels like it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think because it doesn't really focus a lot on the things that a normal like rom-com focuses on. Like, I think a lot of Japanese rom-coms are based around like miscommunication, and like there is a little bit of that, but I think for the most part it's just kind of two very sincere people being in a relationship. It's like weirdly refreshing in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like that it shows them being in the relationship and like navigating that. and it's not just like, oh no, will they, won't they, for like 20 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that show's pretty cute. I would give it the seal of approval. If you want, just like a cute, mindless rom-com to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Spy X Family, which has seemingly taken the world by storm. It's like the big anime of the season.
Yeah, it's taken over. Yep.
Yep.
Sure.
Which revolves around a fake family that consists of a spy, an assassin, and an esper, a psychic child. And basically it's set in this like kind of East-West Germany kind of setting where you have two countries / like a country that's split into two that have very severe tensions with each other. And the spy agent Twilight's main job is to try to make sure that the world doesn't implode, right? And to do that, he has been tasked with getting close to a guy, a very influential political figure who is very reclusive. And so the plan is to get a child into the same exclusive school that the government figure's child goes to, and then eventually through that meeting they will be able to meet, and then whatever kind of happens after that. I don't even remember if it's supposed to be like he's supposed to assassinate him or whatever. I legit do not know. But what you get is a little bit of this political intrigue. You get a little bit of this like kind of cool action show. And then a lot of it is kind of this like found family sort of like comedy.
Yeah.
It's funny because I think it is deceptively slice of lifey for how high the stakes seem to be, right?
Yes.
But quite a large portion of the story is basically just this family trying to pass themselves off as a normal family, or trying to get closer, or the antics of Anya in school, and yeah, it's good. This is a good show. I have been following the manga for this since it was like a relatively like little known piece. Maybe I think I've been reading it since it got published, actually. But yeah, to see it has moved up to like Shonen Jump proper from I don't remember what magazine it was part of before. And then become an anime, and then that anime become like just exploding in popularity. It's cool. And I think it's good. The characters are very endearing. The dynamic is very endearing. Like, who doesn't like? People love fake marriage. People love fake family. People love found family. And this really kind of covers your bases with those things. And like, it's funny and charming, and the animation is really good. The action sequences look really cool. Like, the thing is that the manga is good, and I think it's popular for a good reason. But the anime really does a great job of expanding upon the manga's strengths and turning it into a piece that is like this is like one of those things where the adaptation is like generative, right? Like, it feels like the adaptation is like adding new elements to it that is improving the work, and that's really cool to see. It feels just like a lot of care and attention and craft was put into this anime. Especially the action sequences look really, really good.
Yeah, I love this. The way that the story is set up just seems so brilliant to me. The way that it just kind of like, it feels like it just hits all of the right notes in a way that for most of the general populace, and I imagine that this is the case, you'll just find something that you'll really enjoy watching, whether it's like Lloyd being a cool action spy dude, or the heartwarming family sequences, or any of that stuff. Really, there's so many angles that this one work approaches that you can latch onto, and I think that's contributed a lot to its its worldwide appeal. I saw so many cosplayers for this series.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, this is really the series, right? Like last season, it was My Dress Up Darling. It was last season, right?
Yeah.
So last season, obviously we had My Dress Up Darling and all of the kind of like the Maureen cosplays, and like it's cute because like the show is about cosplaying fictional shows, and then people cosplay the fictional shows in the series itself. And then this season, it's all your all the time, baby. You know, she's waifu of the season.
No, it's so cute that like I mean I got to see like families cosplaying as the spy family.
Yeah, there's always like because it's very funny because like in recent years there have been a couple of like pretty high profile anime where children are like a focus or like a big part of the story, and that really encourages like families to kind of like do group cosplays like that, which is always really cute.
So cute.
But it's also really funny because if you look back, the like dearth of characters for which that would be appropriate is like it becomes funnier in retrospect. Like you would like imagine if you saw a family cosplay and the family cosplay was just Gendo Ikari, Unit 01, and Shinji, right? Like
stop it.
You'd be like, no.
Stop it.
Like there's like it's like even when you look at like shoujo series, it's really hard to find, it's really hard to find like children to cosplay and like wholesome family relationships, because like a lot of times shoujo revolves around the female lead being dispossessed in some way, maybe being an orphan like in Fruits Basket, or being abused by their parents, or like motherfucking Usagi drop. Like, no, you would never do that. Oh no. So, that's very funny. But yes, it is. I think that it's because the characters are very like they're very charming and they have obviously a couple of traits to them, but I think they kind of nail the like the gap moe of what people want in the current year of our Lord 2022, right? People find a kind of like ditzy, clumsy person charming, but also people want to be stepped on and have their spines broken by a mommy dummy. So like,
oh my
what if
God.
you could have both in one character? I'm telling people love MILFs. It's a known fact. But yes, the popularity of this show has taken over the internet. So like, I mean, really, do you need us to tell you how we feel about it? Like, it's good. We like it. We would recommend that you watch it. Stamp of approval. Bum bum. I don't know how much more I have to say about that. I mean, obviously aside from just like it's always really interesting when you get like a piece about political sort of tension and unrest, and then just sort of like in the middle, maybe not in the middle, I guess, but like in the sort of political sphere that we have globally speaking that exists now, like the fact that Shinzo Abe got shot with a homemade gun and fucking died.
Yeah.
that is actually fucking wild to me. Like, I cannot believe that I really didn't think that I would live to see that happen in a country like Japan, of all places. Like, we've had a lot of assassination attempts for presidents here, some more successful than others. But like, man, it is usually just so so on the level of like, normally it's like somebody puts in progressive policies and then some like right-wing wacko just like goes nuts, right? It's really weird to kind of see the opposite happen, where like this really terrible like war crime apologist grandson of the guy who did all of the war crimes in Manchuria and got to be prime minister for some reason gets basically karmic retribution. Like, he really sowed those seeds and then fucking reaped them, and like that's bonkers. Anyway, let's talk about Kaguya-sama.
Okay.
Not to linger on that. So Kaguya-sama, this is the 3rd season. And wow. So like Spy X Family was obviously really good. And like elevated its source material in a meaningful way. Kaguya-sama takes that to the extreme.
I can't believe how much they improve each season.
This show went fucking bonkers. Like season 1, they kept things interesting with the angles and stuff. Season 2, they decided to like really kind of one up themselves, and then season 3 they just went wild. And I think what happened was that the choices made for the presentation of season 3 have kind of a lot to do with the fact that they didn't have the sheer manpower to have insanely high production value all the time. So what they did was they just went in a really specific direction with it, and it works so well, and no anime is like this. It's so fucking wild.
It's like, it's a school anime, so you wouldn't expect that they would need a ton of animation and pizzazz and all this kind of stuff. Like, you would expect that maybe more out of like a fantasy anime or something like that, something a little more action packed or whatever, or supernatural or anything like that. But it's a daily school anime, and the effects and all of the animation is just absolutely buck wild good. The voice acting, of course, continues to be amazing.
Stellar.
Oh my goodness. And the story, of course, is great too. It's just so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, everything about Kaguya-sama is just golden. Because the source material is obviously very good. I like it because it takes this kind of like very formulaic premise, and they play it for a while, and they make some small incremental like inches towards progress, like a long-running rom-com is kind of wont to do. But where most kind of peter out in that phase and they never really get to like a satisfying resolution, Kaguya-sama gets up one day and just kind of fucking like bam, hits the accelerator, and you just barrel towards the conclusion, and it's breathtaking. And the way that the anime is depicted, I sincerely believe that whether the decisions to add all of the memes and effects, like the purposefully bad fragmented artifacted green screen, the sequences where characters just fucking fly into space, the sequences where they're like, I sincerely believe that Kaguya-sama is the best directed anime of the year, and I think there's very little contention in that regard, because it's pretty fucking stellar, and very few things feel like it. It feels so like interestingly almost like postmodern in a way, in the way that Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei was, or in the way that something like even something like the Tatami Galaxy was, but it obviously is more grounded than those series and has a essentially moving plot, right? It feels, the camera angles actually, and the sort of the etherealness of some of the shots make it feel almost like Bakemonogatari, It has that like Shaft like otherworldliness to it. And at the same time, it's like undergirded by this like really compelling and simple and straightforward story that the characters continue to make worse for themselves, and it's just endlessly entertaining. And then just when you think like, oh, that's it, right? They fucking hit you with the confession scene, and it fucking takes your breath away. It is literally breathtaking. And oh my god, right? Like it is very difficult to be able to pull off a climax like Kaguya-sama pulls off the climax of season 3. And what's incredible is that there's more arcs after this of Kaguya-sama, and I hear that they're actually really good, and that's bonkers to me too.
How do they improve upon what they've already accomplished?
I don't know. I have no idea. I feel like I vaguely heard that they might be making a movie, but I might be making that up. Or like an OVA or something. But whatever comes next in Kaguya-sama, I am keeping a very close eye on. But like, it is incredible. Because it's not just like they add weird effects, right? It actually really enhances the physical comedy.
Yes, it does.
Because like in manga, right, you have the visual and you have the literature kind of aspect of it, right? So you know, you can play off of those two things, but in anime you have voice acting and you have music and sound effects, and like animation can depict things that are harder to depict in manga, and in like a sort of still image format. So like it really just takes everything and cranks it up, and the physical comedy actually becomes so funny and such an integral part of the show. And like weird shit happens all the time, and like you just have to accept it. They let Chika say fuck in this in this season. They just let her say fuck. Are you kidding me?
If there was one character that they would allow to do such a thing.
Like, they let her say fuck. Oh my god. Pack it up. I mean, like, honestly, this is legitimately my pick for anime of the season. And there's like all the stuff we watched, really, really good. This was just stellar. It was so good.
Yeah, I really, really hope that they continue making more seasons, but
yeah,
and obviously it's up to them and whether they can budget and stuff like that.
I also don't want to undersell just how good the emotional impact of the climax and the finale are.
Oh, it was brilliant. Oh,
there is the entire latter half of the third season is basically dedicated to this school festival arc, and like it just throws you like gut punch after gut punch, and you're like, oh no, I care about these characters so much. Like, okay, the thing is, like, I am getting older now, right? I am getting to a point where I see a lot of the stuff that I like looked at when I was like 17. I was like, oh wow, so deep, so meaningful, right? And I look back and I'm like, just like, it's whatever. It's fucking high school, man. But like, Kaguya-sama actually does make you care, and it never sets the stakes so high that they're like, you know, that they feel melodramatic, right? It's not like, oh, I'm gonna die if you don't confess to me, right? I have cancer, and like I only have 3 months left to live, but Ishigami has already confessed to me, or whatever. It's not like that, right? It's literally just very straightforward. It's that these characters are just at this crossroads in their life where they may have to like, things will change. The status quo is going to get upended, and they might have to say goodbye to each other, and they don't want to do that. And that's where a lot of the drama and tension comes from. There's a very funny sequence where like Ishigami accidentally confesses, and the other party is like, oh, I'll think about it, right? And she's like, I don't know if I like him in that way, and like you just feel for the guy, right? And like the whole last sequence with Kaguya and Miyuki, and it's just, ooh, chef's kiss. Peak high school romance, honestly. It's so extra, it's so over the top, and yet it makes you care.
Yeah.
I give a shit about these characters. I do not say that lightly. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. Let's talk about the most bonkers anime that I watched this season. Somehow, even though I watched Kaguya this season, Birdie Wing Golf Girl's story. What the fuck? Like, sincerely, actually, what the fuck is this show, right? So, we were initially interested in this show because there was, like, just a really specific thing in the trailer where it seemed like they were going to pull a visual trick where the one of the main characters they would animate by hand, and then one of the characters they would kind of do more CG or rotoscoping, and it was supposed to represent, you know, the different styles in which they golfed. I don't think they did that on purpose. That pretty much never comes up again. But
yeah,
what we did get was what
much more.
We got so much more. Like, think about what you would imagine a golf anime would be like an anime about golf. Throw that shit in the trash! Oh my god!
No, this do not be deceived by the title of this anime. On the one hand, it does describe things that are in the anime. However, the way that the story plays out, you would never, ever, ever guess.
So here is the thing, right?
Yeah.
This is an anime about golf, but it's not just an anime about golf. It is about a character named Eve, who is an underground golfer. She makes her money by golfing with people, like, basically illegally gambling on her golfing specifically. Like, she'll be like, okay, if I beat you, I'll get this much money or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And that's already kind of a bonkers place to start because, like, why would that exist?
Okay, but that's like you started with the most normal part of the show.
No. You are correct. That is why I started there. That's the most normal part of the show.
Right, yes. Keep that in mind, listeners, as we proceed.
So, that's where we start. And then there's another character who is a golf prodigy. She is the child of two professional golf players, two of the best professional golf players to exist. And she has been raised since birth to play golf, and she is probably the best young golfer. And so she enters a young golf tournament to prove that she's the best, because her mom is like, you're going to do this. I own this golf brand, and doing this will make you the best golfer, and it will also raise the stonks of my brand, right? And while she's there in this fictional European country, she meets Eve. And so they get to know each other, and they golf against each other. And young golf mistress is really into it. She has never felt this way before. And so the entire tournament takes place in about 2 episodes. Okay? All right? And then
Yes.
And then they part ways, and then they're like, "Oh, we're going to play another game of golf, right?" And young golf mistress has to be shipped back to Japan. She's from Japan.
Bye.
And so like neither of them are able to meet up because she has to go to Japan. So she's like, "I'll wait for you here." But underground golfer Eve has to pay back the debts to the golf mafia, right? So that was how she got into this young golfers tournament, was by asking the golf mafia, right? And so she has to golf somebody, and she has to golf this sexy snake lady who she's like having a hard time golfing against, until she realizes it's because this sexy golf snake lady, this golf fucking freak, who's like, I will use your body if you lose, right? So like lesbianism, I guess, right? it turns out that what she's doing is she's unzipping her bodysuit and letting her, like, musk out, and it's affecting the other golfer's sense of balance. And what the fuck? But that's not even the most jacked up part of the show, because afterwards, she loses, Snake Golf Freak loses, and Eve rushes to go to that golf match with Aoi, who is the Japanese golf mistress, and they just miss each other, right? And so she's like really upset because they couldn't meet each other, right? It's like this like Makoto Shinkai like misconnection thing, but then she starts playing VR golf. Eve starts playing VR golf and finds Aoi in VR golf, and then they start playing with each other. And like that's like a thing that happens for a bit, and then Eve has to go back to the golf mafia and play against her boss, basically, who turns out she has a mechanical arm with the bone still in there, so that she can play golf, but she golfs too hard and her fucking arm breaks, and then Eve wins the golf shit, and then Golf Mafia boss dies! She gets fucking iced because they're in the Mafia, and, like, what is going on? What is going on in this anime?
Yeah.
And then after that, Eve goes to Japan, and then it becomes a school anime about girls playing golf, and that's like kind of where it ends for the season. I think the next season has been announced, which is crazy because the last episode ends off like they're gonna air another episode next week, and not like they're wrapping up for the season. I was like, is there another episode? No, there's not. They're just like, nope, this is it. This is it.
Wait, so that's not so what we watched they're mid tournament. They're mid-tournament!
They're mid-tournament.
What?
And that's where they decide to leave off. It's like they don't give a shit. They're like,
it was 14 episodes, right?
We know we're gonna wrap up for the season, but I don't care. We're just gonna play it like we're gonna go all the way through. And you're like, what? So like, what the fuck?
Why?
So also not to sell this as more gay than it is. This show is like really, really gay. And I don't mean that in the like normal queer baity way of like gay. I mean that in the kind of like Yuri on Ice, like they're fucking married kind of way.
But they didn't smooch or give each other rings like in Yuri on Ice. I've heard it's not official.
They didn't kiss on the lips. But,
oh yeah, that's right. She did give her a little smooch on the cheek or whatever.
But yeah, exactly. Eve kisses her on the cheek and is like, "It's very fun to watch you get flustered, and if we win, I'll give you more kisses if that's what motivates you." And you're like, "I'm going insane."
Okay, it's 13 episodes. Oh my god, it did finish airing. What the?
Yeah, that was the last episode. And also literally the manager is like, "Oh no. Like, I was really into this. I can't let them be in the same bed together." And you're like, there's only one thing that can mean. The only thing that can mean is that you perceive them as being romantically compatible. And like, I'm going to go fucking nuts. What is this show? Whatever expectations I had of this show, it continually kept breaking because the show moves at this breakneck pace where it will take what normally a normal sports anime will depict in a season or in 6 episodes, and it will do it in 1 or 2 episodes because they just cut all of the useless crap out, and they're just like, here's the most batshit parts. And you're like, Birdie, wing golf girl story. I don't know if I want any more golf. And it's like, I do not care. You are getting more golf.
You're getting more.
I just don't know. I don't know what to give as a verdict about this series.
I
I don't know if it's good. I think
Okay, well, it's definitely not good because the pacing and the story are all over the place. But on the other hand, it's the kind of not good that is super entertaining. So if you're that kind of person that likes to watch like quote unquote bad stuff, like bad movies or whatever, because they're really funny and that's what's deemed to you as like good content, then you will perhaps enjoy the absolute madness that occurs in this anime, because we only actually skimmed the iceberg. Like there is so much more to the way that they tell the story and the way that scenes are broken down that is just crazy. Like she had this whole like the sequence where she is like she's like reminiscing, but she's like alone in every scene, and it plays out kind of like a karaoke movie with like sorrowful music playing in the background. She just has a whole sequence where they just play that, like just scene by scene, like her standing in different parts of the city reminiscing alone, and it feels like lyrics should be playing on the bottom of the screen.
It feels like Baka Mitai, like the
it feels like Baka Mitai,
the video for Baka Mitai. But also when Sexy Snake Golf Freak is like, I'll show you the pleasures of being a woman, or whatever she says, right? Fuck, do you know what Eve says in response? She says someone is already in my heart, and she is talking about Aoi, and like I can't make this shit up.
She also golfed. She swung her club and shot the golf ball through a train.
Yes.
Through a moving train. Like, as in she was on one end of one side of the train. The train is moving like just horizontally, and then past the moving train is the hole. And she just like pew.
Yep, she shoots her shot through a moving train. There's one where she shoots straight through a tree branch and breaks it and just powers through with sheer, I don't know, drive power. Like, this show is bonkers in a really similar but different way to the way that Kuroko no Basket is ostensibly about basketball. Anyway. Would I recommend watching Birdie Wing? If anything at all appeals to you in what we just talked about, I would highly recommend watching it, because it whatever expectations you have, it will somehow exceed them in the most bombastic and bizarre way possible. There's a body count in this anime about golf.
Yeah. That, yes, I would agree that if you like an anime that will just exceed all of your expectations, watch this golf.
It is
anime.
a very offbeat sports anime. So if you don't normally like sports anime, there is a really decent chance you will still find some enjoyment out of this.
Yep. All right,
let's talk about ya boy Kongming.
Let's go.
This show was a delight.
It, by all accounts, like just based on the premise and everything like that, like should have been a show that was just like kind of like Birdie Wing, honestly. But it ended up not only just but it also exceeded expectations, I should say. But in a really, really great way, as in the quality of the story and the music and all of that was just so much better than I thought that it would be going into this anime.
Yes. Yeah. I think this anime is very clear about what it's about. Like, I think what it is about is like written on the tin, right?
Yeah.
It is about a young sort of aspiring artist getting some help to achieve their dream, right? And it really doesn't pull any surprises in that regard, right? Like, the actual arc of it is pretty clear, because it's, her sincerity and passion for her craft will carry her through and win the day. But of course, there's just like the plot element of like ancient, famous Romance of the Three Kingdoms strategist Zhuge Liang is her advisor, right? It has like reincarnate isekai'd into modern day Japan. And I think it just plays off its premise and central gag really well, while also maintaining this very sweet, sincere story. And I think what goes a long way to the story feeling like very interesting and cohesive is that the characters are just all very charming and endearing. Of course, you really sort of grow to love all the characters. You see a lot of their perspectives. But I think the central thing about this show really is the music. So obviously, it's about Eiko. She's a kind of like an EDM-esque singer, and her sort of goal is to become a famous singer, because her background was, she didn't have any kind of reason for living, and then heard this performance, and it gave her a reason to live. And it's just very nice, right? But the music itself is really, really good. You mentioned in the sampler that the singing parts are done by Kuroneko.
Yeah.
And yeah, very, very good. Obviously, there is a lot of rapping. And it takes up quite a considerable amount of the anime, and it's really delightful, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny, because I think Kabe Taijin is a great character, because he's like this like rap god, but he's also this like wimpy little dude, and they keep pointing it out too. They're like, man, he's a lot wimpier than I thought it'd be, but that's like the Gap Moe, off the charts, delicious, right? So all of that, very delightful. The music is stellar. It is easily the best part of the show. And then there's kind of the rest of it, which is just like about Romance of the Three Kingdoms strategist Zhuge Liang, and there's kind of that stuff that hits me personally about like being born into more peaceful times.
Yes.
Kind of like it's nice because he kind of gets some character development, really.
Yeah.
Not like super actively, but through Eiko's growth, he kind of sees and reminisces about his own past. I think it's kind of cute that we get all that stuff.
I really liked the I really liked the part where he is reminiscing about how he didn't spend enough time with his soldiers, and how being here in the modern times with all his friends, with new friends and stuff, kind of like made him realize,
I think
what the important things are.
I think because the series itself just has a lot of heart, right? A lot of it is just it's like not like just about like how to become popular. Just have strategist Zhuge Liang help you, right? It's like it's more about like what it means to be popular, what it means to make art, what it means to make an impression on other people, right? The fact that it's not just like it's not just writing songs to become popular, but writing songs because they will inspire other people, they will make other people feel a certain way. Writing songs because your passion is writing songs, and your and like songs and music save your life, right? All that kind of stuff. I think that is really at the core, right? It's like that the sincere core of like why a lot of people make art is to share experiences with other people. So I think that's really cool. And this show is a delight. I think it is entertaining all the way through. The music is really good. And even though it's not like the most like unpredictable show, right? The actual story beats are very predictable. Especially because they basically tell you outright. They like foreshadow them very obviously, right?
Yeah.
But it still manages to make them feel satisfying, because you're like, ooh, I want to see how they'll do it, right? Like all of the times that Kongming pulls out, he's like talking about a stratagem, and then later it comes up, and it's like this is what a modern day interpretation of that stratagem would look like, and like that's so funny and charming, and like very central to the actual like premise of the series. And then like when you have the battle of the bands, essentially, where they roll up on the trucks, and you have Kabe just fucking goes off. You're like, woo, yeah!
Yes.
Very satisfying little show, very well done, and it wraps up in a really decent place. If they decided to make more of it, obviously I would watch it. If they don't, I'm still kind of satisfied with where it is.
Yes.
They told a neat little story, and they wrapped it up pretty well. And like, obviously the animation was not like mind-blowing stellar. It was serviceable, but the music is really where the brunt of it is. And they did a really great job. They knocked it out of the park.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So we watched most of The Executioner and Her Way of Life, which was delightfully gay and pretty interesting. It feels very funny because it's like this like bucking of the modern isekai trend, where like it has a very intricate magic system, and also it kind of cares about the world building. It's a world in which isekai protagonists are common, and also about lesbians.
The ladies fall in love, like, explicitly.
Yeah, like it's got that, it has that girls love / Yuri tag on it, so it's not pulling your leg or anything. They're actually gonna kiss.
Right. There's plausible deniability and stuff like Birdie Wing or whatever, but this one has the tag.
This one has the tag. Which is always nice.
We're there.
That certainty is always nice, because
it is
like,
yes.
We yell all the time about like queerbaity shit and like stuff that's like gay, but people refuse to believe it is, even though it's extremely homosexual. But yeah, this has the tag, so it kind of elides all that stuff entirely. I would say that this show is pretty good. It's pretty
interesting,
pretty okay, pretty well animated, I would say. The story is really intriguing. I like the way that the world is built, and I think it's interesting. And obviously, I like that it is kind of like a bucking of the modern isekai trend. We didn't finish it primarily because we just like didn't really have time to, and then Renu went off to go out of the country, so that's fine.
Yeah. But I would say, like, if you enjoyed the first 3 episodes, that it continues to, I mean, I think it gets better as the story progresses. Becomes a lot more interesting because you get into the main character's backstory, and then also the world building is like really fascinating. So I would be interested in like finishing it later, or maybe even picking up like the source material if it's been translated.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a neat little story with some teeth to it.
It is. Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, would you like to tell me about all the stuff that you watched that I did
watched
not?
many. Okay, I'll go through it pretty quickly because it's pretty. Two of them are sports anime, so. So the first is Ashi. Yeah. At first I was gonna drop it, but then they got into. I think I mentioned this in the sampler. The protagonist being like from a poor family, and then he's wanting to be a pro soccer player so he can take care of, so that his mom doesn't have to work so hard as a single parent, and then he has a brother who supports him, and it just hit me in all the emotions. So I want him to succeed, and it's interesting because so he starts off as a very typical, shonen protagonist, right? He loves being the forward in the soccer team, which means that he's part of the offense most of the time. So he's like deep. He's generally like in the front lines, right? As a forward, obviously. Their main goal is generally to score goals, right? But the twist, I guess, that occurs actually quite a bit later into the season is that he kind of sucks at it, even though he's generally improving and actually improving really quickly. The coach notices that this protagonist has actually a really, really good like vision of the field, like almost like an eagle's eye view of like where like spaces are like vulnerable or open and things like that. And like rather than having him as a forward, it would kind of feel like a waste. He puts the character like on the defense as a fullback, where he can like have a broader view of the field and be able to basically be the shot caller, right? And my man's hates this. My man's wants to be the hero. He wants to be the cool guy scoring all the goals, gets all the attention and all that kind of stuff. And so I kind of like watching this shonen protagonist type of character get put in his place.
Oh, yeah.
It happens so many times in this anime, and I think that's like one of the reasons why I really like it, is it doesn't just enable this like punk attitude or whatever. It really like helps this kid mature into a team player and hopefully eventually into a mature soccer player. But yeah, he gets slapped down a whole lot, but you end up kind of rooting for him because his heart is in the right place and he keeps working really, really hard towards his goal. He doesn't give up and all that kind of stuff. So
right,
yeah, I like it. I'm still watching it because it's continuing. Yeah. So next is Reman's Club, which is finished. It, I would say, is a more approachable sports anime. It's not that shonen type of sports anime. It's actually only half about the sport and then half about a salaryman's life. Like I think they actually straddle the balance like pretty well. And so I think that's why it's entertaining, because it isn't just about the badminton. It's about the fact that they're salarymen playing badminton.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, it was really entertaining. I think I almost wanted them to have a little more time to dig deeper into the characters and like kind of flesh them out more. As it stands, it's a little bit shallow, but it's still just overall like a nice light watch, and the animation is really, really good.
Nice.
So if you want an approachable sports anime, yeah, this one isn't just about sports.
Listen, we love any sort of storied genre that makes a that is suddenly about like middle-aged men. I don't know what it is, but anytime you have a genre that's like, normally for like boys, like young boys or younger women, and then you're just like, okay, but what if we made like salary men do it? I'm like, ooh, all right, sign me up.
Yes. Yeah, no, my investment was already there. As soon as they said that it was going to be about salarymen playing badminton, I was like, yes. And yeah, it is. It is actually that. It is about salarymen. So sometimes it's about them needing to make a sales presentation, and sometimes it's about my man's has achy knees and he can't play, and so
you
the
love
other people have
to
cover
see
for him.
it.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. So next, I also watched Danseur. That one is technically finished, but it leaves off on the "and the story continues" kind of ending. Because, you know, the source material continues. But oh my god. The beginning of the story that you and I both watched was like very lighthearted. I mean, this dude just wants to dance. I mean, aside from, you know, him losing his father and everything,
Right.
And him battling with that, the general tone of the story was very light. It's like he just wants to get over. You want him to just get over his insecurities and become a dancer because that's what it feels like he's meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the story, the way that it plays out is interesting because every time that I thought it was going to go in a certain direction, it just deviates just slightly in a way that feels like it's truer to what the story, like the author's intent is. And so you're kind of kept on your toes because it's not just like a predictable path for the story. And it doesn't also feel like they're just kind of subverting it for subversion's sake, right? So one example I would say is like they kind of like hint at I don't know if they introduced him. I think they probably showed him in the intro or the ending, but there was like a silver-haired character with blue eyes, right? And he looks kind of like that broody, like like that mysterious, like he's probably got some stuff going on with him, right? This is the trauma character.
Oh my.
This is the character that has been through the trauma. And rather than like how I've seen it in other types of series where they kind of just like drag on about it and become repeated over and over again, like this character has been through trauma. They kind of they do a little bit of that, but then they tackle it like face first, which I found kind of refreshing in terms of like the way that they show it. They inch you into it as the main character kind of learns about it, but then it just like throws the door wide open into, oh, this teenage boy was raised to be a dancer by his grandmother, who wanted her daughter to be a dancer, but her daughter ran away, and so she imposed all of those feelings onto her grandson in the most harsh and abusive way possible.
Of course, yeah.
Because it is not an easy thing to become a ballet dancer, and she did it in what they termed in the story as the old-fashioned ways, like the old ways, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of get to see, like I said, the door kind of cracks open and into what he went through when he is trying to help the main character do some stretches and like increase his flexibility, and he kind of like pushes the main character too hard in a way that would actually have injured him, and then the teachers have to like stop him, and they're like, no, we don't do that anymore, that's the old way, but that's you're going to hurt him. And the character, the traumatized character, Luo, I'll address him by name, Luo, is kind of taken aback because he feels like if anyone is going to talk down on the way that his grandmother raised him, that it's kind of a denial of his own abilities as a dancer, because he credits his abilities and his skill, right? Because all of the characters in the show acknowledge how amazing he is as a dancer. His skill to her treatment of him. So even though it was absolutely horrible, he doesn't want anyone talking down on that, because that's what made him who he is. And if he doesn't have that, then he doesn't have anything, because his mother ran out on him. Right?
Yeah.
So his grandmother is basically all that he has, and then there's like it just like there's also like a love triangle, of course, in the show, and so it's very much like old school shoujo vibes. Of there's a lot of drama going around with these kids, but also I think it, for the most part, straddles the line well of keeping it lighthearted and in times where it should be to have like a breath of fresh air, and then also addressing the fact that these kids, I mean particularly Luo, got really messed up, and how that is kind of having a ripple effect amongst the other two characters who are invested in his well-being. But it feels like a very honest kind of take on the whole situation, like kind of like, I don't know, like Whiplash or whatever, right? That movie. And it also like treats the other characters in a very like, the main character gets called out a bunch too for talking down on classical dancing and that kind of thing. Like I wish that there was some kind of resolution
right, yeah,
to anything. It legitimately ends with the main character and the female lead during the season had acknowledged each other's feelings and they started going out, but then Luo's trauma door opened wide and he was with his grandmother. He ran away to his grandmother's, and the female lead ends up staying with Luo, and the main character gets dumped, and then he goes to, I think, high school, or no, he goes to he graduates or whatever, and that's how it ends, and that's how the season ends. He just it ends with him dancing happily at his new school or whatever.
I see.
Yeah, maybe read the manga, but the animation was actually really, really pretty. They go out of their way to show diagrammatically what a bad dancer does and what a good dancer does.
Wow.
And yeah, I loved it. It was very educational. Yeah, so it's a good series. Definitely some drama. But you will learn about dancing, that's for sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So finally, I watched most of this until I couldn't watch anymore. Heroine tarumo no kiraware heroine to naisho no oshigoto. So this show was the one that we complained about in the sampler, I think.
Yes. Yep.
About like the main girl, she's so lovable. She's got bushy eyebrows, and then a lovely personality, of course. And then the two male leads whom we absolutely despise.
We hate those male leads.
They do go the route of them kind of slowly but surely becoming more fond of the female lead, because of course they would, because she's amazing. And at one point she ends up injuring herself trying to help them during like a fan meetup thing. And the thing is that she's at this school to run track and field. Right. And so her injuring her, I think it was like her leg or her ankle, was a huge deal. And it made me dislike these boys even more, even though they didn't actually do anything to cause this.
Listen, those boys are just the worst.
Yeah, no, I don't. Then so the story, we liked it for the main lead, female lead, but we also liked it because she had cute female friends, right? They were supportive. Yes. and so lovely. This is the part where I dropped the anime, which is the big reveal.
Oh no.
The whole time you are given these little crumbs about how there's this adoring fan or whatever who likes to send the boys letters, right? Oh god, Lip and Lip or whatever their group name. And the letters sound really sweet, so no red flags there. But eventually you learn that the person sending the letters is the female friend with the glasses.
Yep.
And she hates the main character and is out to destroy her.
Yeah.
And that's when I stopped watching. I was like, that's enough. I can't take this anime anymore. I don't want to see the main lead develop feelings for the other two main boys. I don't want to see them fall in love with her, even though she's a queen and she could just stomp all over them. I definitely don't want to see the friends betray her. Or one of the friends betray her.
Like, I know that probably, the sort of like arc of it's actually really quite a predictable show in the sense that you know exactly what's going to happen. It kind of tells you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know that the arc is going to be like she's eventually going to be like, "Oh, we can be friends still. Like, I should never have let a boy get between us," or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want to watch them fight in the first place. These boys are so not worth fighting.
Yes, that's
over.
exactly. They're not worth it. Why? Oh my god! And they also do this whole like, I forget the movie, the teen romance movie, where they make over the female lead and suddenly she's hot and the boys are like, oh
no,
they do that to the main girl. Oh man!
No.
Thankfully, she reverts. She I think for the most part reverts back to her original appearance afterwards because she's like, I got work to do, y'all. But yeah, they did that as well.
Boo. Nobody wants to see that.
From what I hear from other reviews is that the season kind of just ends very rushed to kind of like very quickly wrap up the conflict with the friend and all that kind of stuff. But
yeah, that's gonna be a no from me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I knew it was just gonna be a no, but I wanted to see where they would go with the I don't know, how much will these boys make me hate them kind of avenue, and then instead they decided to try and make me hate the friend, and I just couldn't deal with that.
Listen, we like her.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to not like her.
Yeah, we don't want to find out that she's obsessed with these two dorks that we hate.
It's the worst. Okay, well, is that the last thing that you watched that I didn't?
That is the last thing I watched.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Nice. We actually wrapped up a little faster than I thought. I thought we would be talking in the prelude for forever. I was afraid that we would have to split this up into two parts, but actually I think it'll fit into one. So that's nice.
I think we'll be all right, yeah.
Nice. Well, in that case, who are you? Where can we find you on the internet?
Hello, I am Renu, also known as Swan. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and Twitch and all that kind of stuff at SwanDrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. I will be working on art because I have one last convention during Labor Day weekend. So I'm working towards that. That'll be what it was going down. I also stream every Friday evening on Twitch. I think I'm still gonna be playing more DMC. I'm almost at the end, dude. I reached like floor like 99 out of 100.
Oh my god! I forgot about this.
Yes, I could see victory on the horizon. So, if you want to see me get my butt kicked over and over again in this game, maybe drop by.
I see.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, you can find me all the places at Literal Soup. I have been, at least on the internet, I've mostly been doing what I usually do. You know, we got back to doing Ace Attorney streams now that you're back in the country. I've got back to doing the tier list streams that I do with my friends, and that's nice. We are currently on Wizards Part... So we finished Wizards Part 1, and then we'll see if Part 2 is the end or not. I suspect we may have to go into a Part 3, just because Wizards have so many subclasses, and... oh, boy. Yeah. But that's nice. That's fun. I'm thinking about what we're gonna do after we finish Artificer, which is the last class that we have to rank. They did just announce the D&D, what is it? The 1 D&D stuff, which is like online integration, and I think they're going to do a revised version of the rulebook, which is interesting. Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, I have both been getting a lot of support and flack from the internet because I recently, a couple of days ago, I made a thread about, you know, the ways in which D&D encourages you to engage with its combat mechanics, and people took a lot of offense to that.
You stirred up a little Twitter controversy?
I did. I stirred up a little Twitter controversy because you know, because people hear something that they don't like, and they are naturally going to have strong opinions about it. And I have strong opinions about, you know, D&D too. But like it is very funny because it's one of those things where you try to very clearly say one thing, and no matter how you put it, people will take it the incorrect way. They'll just read their own meaning into it, and that's just how communication works, to be honest. There's not a lot you can do about that. It's a lot of people putting words in my mouth, which is always really funny. I'm just like, so you're a D&D hater, are you? I'm like, no, I actually kind of like D&D, actually.
Actually, I devote a lot of time and energy to my love for D&D and playing D&D.
Right. So that's very funny. I have quite a lot of thoughts about the way that D&D works as a game, but people just don't seem that interested in thinking about it that way. They would much rather just because it's like you and I come from a background of role playing, right?
Yeah.
So when I started playing in D&D, I had that under my belt, and
yeah,
it was something that really, really helped me a lot. But a lot of people don't have that, and it can be harder for them to know how to do things in the game if they don't have rules for it. And D&D has a lot of rules for combat and not that many rules for things that aren't combat. But anyway, I'm not gonna rehash that whole thing. Everybody knows I have strong opinions about things. But yeah, my notifications, I think they're just starting to peter out now. But yeah, like my Twitter doesn't even really send me notifications to my phone anymore because it's like, you're not gonna want all these little blips, and I'm like, you're right, Twitter, I don't want all these blips. I don't need all these blips. People are yelling at me. That's fine. But a lot of people also are you know, they understand what I'm trying to say, which is nice. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about D&D generally. So there's that. Other than that, I'm really not up to much. I'm going to play more Final Fantasy XIV. Obviously, the the new patch is going to drop soon, I think within the week. So I will probably be busy doing that. That'll probably occupy me for a day or two.
Nice.
Yeah. August 23rd. So yeah, that's when I'll be doing that. That'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. They're going to drop some content, some continuation of main story quest, and some raids and trials and stuff, and I'm gonna have a good time. Gonna have a good time with it. All right, that's all I'm up to. I've also been reading a lot of webtoons recently, just because it's really easy to read webtoons at work because they're formatted for your phone, and manga is not. Manga has tiny text and is paneled to be read on a page. Which this is decidedly smaller than. So the webtoon is nice. I've read a lot. I've been reading a lot of like villainous webtoon stuff. Obviously, I started reading a Chinese webtoon called "Cheating Men Must Die," which is pretty entertaining.
Oh.
It's basically it's like an isekai kind of, but it's like an isekai like broad. So it's basically about this girl that is a like an agent of some kind, like an organizational agent. And what she does is she goes and possesses secondary female leads or spurned female characters in media properties, all of which are obviously fictional, right? They're fictional in the context, but she goes into those worlds and gets justice for the second lead, right? So it's a lot of like. When you have like a story that's like, oh, I am betrothed to this person, but I don't love them. I love you, random person, right? And then it's justice for the spurned. It's pretty much the same exact thing as the villainous, but from a slightly different angle, which I think is interesting. There's like 400 chapters, so I've been making my way through that.
Oh my word.
If there's anything you can say, it is that there is a lot of it, and it's pretty entertaining. At least one of them is like pretty gay, in like a lesbian way. Anyway,
nice.
All right. Well, great. We'll see you probably at some point. Honestly. We're like waking up like from hibernation, so I have no idea when the next episode will come out. But yes, I think we are going to try to do a sampler. I know it's a little late for a sampler in this season, like later than usual, because normally we release a sampler and we're like halfway through the season. This time we're like almost done with the season. But we'll do a sampler anyway. We'll talk about all the anime and stuff. So we're just gonna be on a weird irregular schedule for a while. Like episodes will come when they come, and then eventually we'll normalize back to our weird schedule of technically once a month. So yeah,
we just have some catch up to do.
We just have a little bit of catch up to do. It's just the way it goes. Wouldn't want to leave you hanging too long. Please remember that we exist. All right. Well. Our opening is by Scotty Network, and our ending is by Takuma Okada. And the patrons that we are thanking this month are... Oh my god, it's been so long I forgot to pull up the Patreon page. Oops. Oops. Let's just... How the fuck do I log out of Patreon? Oh my god. Patreon, please, I beg of you. Oh my god, how did this site get worse? Wait, I found it. It's in the bottom left now. How did they make the UI of the site worse? How is this possible? Okay, the patrons we are thanking this episode are Evan Williams, Magpie Mirror Test, Claire, Frostfall, Sean Dad, Cherubel, Dylan Boats. Anyone else? Nope. That's it. thank you so much for your
Yeah.
continued support, even in our off time, our dire hour of need.
Yes, especially as Soupy gets canceled by D&D Twitter.
I'm getting canceled for my toxic tweets.
How dare you try and disparage D&D.
They tried to cancel me. But yeah, well, thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
さようなら。また明日ね。